Hi everybody, I am Saif Shabu. I will present CarbonGeoScales, which is a project with a strong synergy with the Snapshot project. And I think we are trying to provide easy access to open data to projects like Snapshot. This is the aim, the objective of this type of our project. So I am a data scientist with experience with data product management, and I contribute with an open source community for the development of CarbonGeoScales. So our project has been selected recently by a French program called Data for Good, which supported us by connecting with data specialist volunteers. And our team is now composed of 16 data scientists and engineers. So reducing greenhouse gas emissions is very important challenge, climate change challenge, and we believe that the importance of providing easy access of multi-scale open data for helping policy making at different territorial scales. Despite the availability of rich carbon emissions data, their use remains complex for different reasons, such as differences in normalizations, in spatial sample coverage, in data formats. So therefore, CarbonGeoScales attempts to tackle these difficulties by providing a centralized access point to harmonize carbon emissions multi-scale data and providing access to data processing pipelines through an open source collaborative framework. The schema presents the data workflow of our solution. So first, we identified the major emission open data providers at different geographical scales, including the WRI, the Carbon Disclosure Project, and EDGAR High Resolution Emission Database. These datasets are explored and documented in order to feed data catalog shared with the community. These datasets are integrated in our data lake with respect to standardized data model, and then different data processing pipelines are implemented in order to feed a harmonized multi-scale carbon emission database. Stored data are exposed to external applications by the means of an open API. And different data users profiles have been identifying, such as policymakers, carbon accounting specialists, and data journalists. And our roadmap is composed of two phases. The first phase, prototyping phase, as part of Data for Good program in order to deliver a first version of our solution. And then a second phase for industrializing our prototype. So the tasks are classified into three categories: those related to the inventory of data provider, use cases, and data sets in order to build a data catalog. Then tasks related to data processing pipeline development to feed a comprehensive database. And then tasks related to data exposure to build and deploy CarbonGeoScales API. Improvements are planned in the second phase by integrating new datasets, industrialize and improve performance, and integrate possibility to integrate datasets in our API. Our goal is to continue growing this open source community and inviting more contributors to collaborate in our framework by referencing and integrating emissions data providers provided at their local territorial scales. Thank you for your attention.
Great. Thanks, Saif. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions. If any of the panel of experts have questions, do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Can I start?
Absolutely, go for it.
Sure. I just want to start in saying I really like the idea, and from somebody who works on the broad data set that you have included in your project, I have to say this is one of the most frequently asked type of questions that we get from users. I guess my question hinges on, this is very important that we acknowledge and recognize that there are differences and uncertainties that are associated with emission numbers, and with methodology and online data sources and accounting methodologies, they can be different. I guess the real value added next to it is to understand why there is a difference and what we can do about it. And I guess comes to your project, my question would be, once you have your project finished and done, now you have all the data sets and processing, you see the differences. What would you do to, say, reach out and engage with your types of target audiences and to influence the stakeholders to make the decisions that will likely deliver actual emission reductions? Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the question. So actually our goal is to be in the backend, so to provide easy access to people who can use this data to make climate actions. So we understood and we discovered and discussed with some users of carbon emissions data and we understood that there is a problem with standards, with schemas, with accessibility, with data formats. So our perimeter is to identify the data, build a way to a data model to combine these different scales and provide a data catalog to document all this data and provide them easy access to documented data in different scales. And we are thinking that it will be helpful for them because it will reduce their work on looking for this data, and it will be helpful for them to make easier climate actions. So our work stops in providing very relevant data and reliable data.
Thanks.
Thanks, Saif. Are there any other members of the expert panel who want to ask a question? If not, then there's a question that's been posted in the chat.
I'll pop in quickly, and again, super impressive for all of our presenters with only 3 minutes time to cover all this material. And I may have missed this, but could you mention how much usage have you seen of your platform so far, and have you gotten any feedback from those users?
Okay, so I go back for the roadmap. Actually, we started working in this project 2 months ago, so we don't have feedbacks right now, but we start to contact people like Global Carbon Project is in discussion with us to integrate their data, and we are discussing with some research laboratory in France. So we don't have enough feedbacks, but we are planning to start feedbacks after taking and collecting feedbacks after the first prototype. But now what we did the inventory of data, we did the inventory of data providers, we just started the development of the data model and the exploration, and we started the mapping and the building of our database. So we are in this phase, and we are hoping to start to finish our first prototype in June. And starting from June, we are looking for users' feedbacks, and by counting the query of our API and to have more information about their needs in order to integrate maybe new data sets or to combine this data with other information or to integrate some other scales.
So who do you foresee as your final end user? Like, who is the project aimed to? Then anybody can log into the API, but who did you think about?
Okay, so this is what we put in the users part. So we are thinking more about carbon accounting specialists, both from academia, like scientists, and from the private sector. So specialists in carbon accounting, because they are looking for different data, they are collecting this data, they are processing this data, and we think that it will be easier for them to have one access point standardized for this standardized data. And then for policymakers, because they integrate data in their data portal, and they have a lot of data, but they can't make, we think that it's hard now to make decisions with data because we can't combine different scales and we don't have enough information to compare cities. We are in the same problematic like snapshot per project. You can't compare the different cities because data in city level are very complex to integrate and to find. So our main is to provide them with the possibility to compare cities and with different information and properties like GDP, population from all around the world. And we are thinking about, now we are finishing in the API, but we are planning to continue our work because we have like part of exploration of our data, communication of our articles, our generating of articles. So maybe it can be helpful for data journalists to have only one access point of data related to carbon emissions.